This is the 40U Tech Startups podcast. The podcast in which you hear all about the startups and spin-offs from the 4 technical universities in the Netherlands. From the challenges they face to the ecosystems they accelerate in, here we talk about what it takes to flourish and make impact on an international playing field. Brought to you by the 40U.
Welcome at this episode of the Dutch 40U Tech Startup podcast. We're currently at the Valo Hotel in Winter Wonderland, Helsinki, home base of the Dutch delegation of this year's edition of Slush. It's our final day here in the Finnish capital after an intense, hectic, but hopefully productive week for everybody participating at Slush. The event described as the most founder-focused event on Earth. My name is Jochen Meischke, standing in for Vera for this edition of the 40U podcast. And today my guest is Eva van Leeuwen, founder of Young Heroes. And today I'll talk a little bit with her about getting the most out of Slush and the art of pitching and perfecting your pitch deck for investors. First off, Eva, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. Yes, Eva van Leeuwen. I am the founder of Young Heroes, as you mentioned. Young Heroes is a coaching career platform focused on young professionals, Gen Z professionals. I've been an entrepreneur since 2016, so it's the second company I started, and having fun with it. I like this part of the journey, like the beginning and the researching and the finding the fit. So I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Nice. So, as an up-and-coming startup, a pitch deck is really important, and you might have an impressive pitch deck, but after the first few minutes are crucial. Investors decide really quickly whether they see a potential match or not. So a strong start is important. And of course, that can be challenging. So what would you say are the most important elements to convey at the very beginning, at the very start of your pitch to get investors interested right away?
Do you mean like the pitch deck which you send, like the document, or do you mean the pitch when I'm talking to investors?
Mostly the latter. So when you're actually talking to investors.
Exactly. I would say it differs, like also who you have at the other side of the table or who you're talking to. So I also listen what they want to know. So I try to adjust it. So first of all, I think when I look back, like the first year also in Slush, is I had the pitch in my head and I was like, okay, I started and I go, and this is the problem we're solving and this is what we do and this is the business model. And that's good. It's good to have that story in your head. But you also should be able to change it during the conversation. So, but always the problem, like what is the problem you're solving and why are you doing what you're doing and why are you so passionate about it? And of course, also what's the business model? Also very quick, is it like B2B, B2C, where the fundamentals they have to know, and you see when you talk to them what they're interested in, and then you jump in and you adjust your pitch. So I would say learn it, really get like a structured story in your head, but be able to adjust it.
Clear. And how do you look at, like, do you feel that you should jump right into the pitch with an investor, or do you usually start with a conversation?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Actually, I always start also with questions. It's just two persons meeting each other, and it can be a bit uncomfortable in the beginning, especially as a founder, maybe because investors, they do this all the time. So I really at the beginning want to maybe make sure that we're both comfortable in the conversation, because otherwise it's like sending and asking questions. You have to make like a human connection, I think. So especially at Slush, when they have like 20 meetings and you're like maybe the 15th, they also, I would think, would just like to have a good conversation, to have a nice conversation, and then go into what you're working on.
Yeah, I can imagine. You already mentioned it. Slush can be extremely hectic.
Yeah.
It's large, it's loud, it's noisy. There's thousands of people there. How do you approach that chaos? How do you get business done there?
Prepare. Yeah. So if you're at Slush, you just go in. Like there are a lot of people there. You have a lot of opportunities. You will talk to a lot of people. So you should not think that you have to control anymore when you're there. So it's about preparation. It's a bit boring maybe, but the first time I went to Slush, I didn't prepare so well. And that was okay because my goal was to learn and to see what the funding world is like and to talk to other founders and investors and to really practice conversations with investors without... I was not actually raising money at that moment, so it was nice. But the second time I prepared way better, and that means make sure that you have meetings booked, make sure that you have the right connections, and you cannot do that like a few days before Slush because then you're too late. So be upfront, be very structured and prepare, and when you're there, just let it go and just go into the moment and see all the opportunities coming.
Sounds good. We talked a little bit about pitching. You already also mentioned your pitch deck. What would your advice be to startups to convey the feel, but also the professionalism? Any tips on making a strong impression with your pitch deck?
Well, actually, our pitch deck is changing like every month, I think, or what? That's maybe a bit because also in this phase you're like changing things in your business. So I would say that you should improve it during time. So, but I think it should be. Yeah, there are a lot of things. What I did in the beginning is showed my pitch deck to a lot of people, just to get feedback. So it's quite vulnerable because you think, okay, you worked so hard on a pitch deck, you think this is really good, and then you send it to someone and they they have all those comments on it. So you have to be open and share also concepts of pitch decks, which I find, what I said, it's quite uncomfortable sometimes, but that's the best way. And change it and change it and change it and change it and make it better. And after Slush, I'm changing it again because I got feedback or questions that I thought, oh, I can put that in a pitch deck and improve it. But it should, there are different things. It should look good. For me, that's very important. It should be attractive. Of course, also the problem and the team, all those basics should be in there. And what I did wrong is with the first pitch decks I made is because the other company I founded was a consultancy agency, and this is a tech company, so that's different. And I had it's very simple, but I had images of people in it in the pitch deck, and of course it's okay because we were focusing on people, but we're selling a tech product, so. Was an investor I know, and she looked at the pitch deck and said, "Why are there people on the first page? And you're selling a tech product." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's like all those small things. You can improve it."
Yeah, so it's also ongoing. It's organic. It's not a static thing.
No,
you keep improving it, keep changing it. I've heard a lot of startups in the last few days talk about the why. The why of their product or service, or why are they working on something? What do you feel is the best way to deliver that message, the why of your startup?
Well, actually, it's funny because I had a conversation last night about this, that we at Young Heroes, we really have a mission of helping young professionals because we know it's not going so well with young people at this moment, like mental health issues when they enter the workplace. So we really want to do something about that. But if you talk to an investor, they are firstly interested also in the business model and the opportunity. So if you go this is our mission, of course, impact investors will maybe be more attractive to it. But you have to. So how can you make sure that you tell the mission and why you're doing this and why you're so passionate about it, but also just the concrete business opportunity and the growth potential. And what I noticed when we talked about it last night, what I do is that I start with the business opportunity, and then in the conversation I bring in why are we so passionate about this? For example, when you talk about team, they ask how's your team? And then you can tell why those people want to work at that in your team, because we are all up for this mission and why we are doing this. So it's also maybe just checking who you're talking to. If you can go all in on why, or did you just have to be very focused on the business?
Mm-hmm. Read the room a little bit.
Exactly.
See what's on the other side of the table. you've been here before, you've pitched before. Are there any mistakes or phrases that you can think of that you say, oh, those are really the things that you want to avoid in the first minutes of a pitch? Or are there things that you say, well, that really works well in my experience?
Well, I'm thinking about what's like wrong or what didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's maybe not always what you're saying, because you've thought about what you want to say very well. So if you're prepared, you're not going to say crazy things. You know, you have to say like, this is the problem, this is the market, blah, blah. I think it's more on how you say it where you can go wrong. It's when you start your pitch and you see the investor is not listening to you, or is like, it's not involved, then it heeft geen zin. What's the English for it? It doesn't matter, I would say, but it's useless. It's useless, exactly. So I think it's more about that. Like I did that, like talking to an investor and just say, okay, this is my story, and bam, I'm gonna, and it's not effective. So I think that's like one of the biggest mistakes you could make. And of course, not being clear in the beginning about your problem, going to make it too much words. Make it just be clear, and be clear on who you are, what you do, what you solve, and short. Sometimes you see, I don't know if you see it, but you see if you're in the room with all investors. I was at the EdTech event 2 days ago, and they're only investors in EdTech and founders, and it's really focused on matching them. And so you see everywhere, you see investors and founders talking, and then sometimes you see in them in a conversation, and you see the investor just like staring blank into the air. They're not involved, and you see a founder like just pushing it and telling and this and this. You just see that it's not working. So again, like be flexible.
I can imagine, like, listening to you, you have these first couple of minutes, and there's so many different things that you're trying to, like, there's so much information you want to tell about your story, your startup, your tech, your idea, your approach, the market. You want to convey that you have a grasp on the market, and etc. etc. How do you prevent overloading an investor with information? What do you do to keep it?
I think you should not be. They're not going to invest in you based on that conversation. The only thing you want, as they also always say, is another. You want a follow-up meeting. So that's your first goal. It's just like dating. So you just want them to like you. You want them to see that you have a business opportunity, and that the next day they still remember you. And that is the goal. And that also makes you a bit calmer. Like, okay, I don't have to tell everything. I don't have to tell about the competition or like what you say, all those boxes. Only if they ask, if they want to know, you can just answer. But don't think you have to be volledig. Tell everything. So focus on the most important parts of it. And
earlier on, you spoke like you get so much more out of it if you come here well prepared versus just dropping in, basically.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what preparation steps you took, or how your preparation looks like to ensure, you being here, your best self?
Several things. So it's also about making sure your pitch deck is ready, so you have it. But it's mostly about making sure you reach out to your contacts, investors you want to meet. So if you only do it via the Slush platform, it's so they get like so many people wanting to meet them. So what I do is I have a list with all the investors I want to talk to. I ask other people like, okay, what do you think are investors who fit us? Can you make an introduction? And then I reach out via the platform, but also LinkedIn. And we have a list of potential investors, and we collect over the last year, 2 years. So we have just an Excel. We put everyone who's maybe interested, we put on the list. So we have an email, investor update email, and we send that every quarter. Just for people, it's also a good tip. If you're at Slush and you have a meeting and you think, oh, we like each other, it's like, but it's not now because we're not racing at this moment, or it's a fund who's more later stage and you're too early. They say, oh, can we put you on the update on the list? And they always say yes, and then you have a list which you also can use in preparation for something like Slush, and we did that. So I reached out personally. I asked other people to introduce me to those people, and used LinkedIn, and then you met on the platform. And also the side events are very good for it, because the investors are very busy. Sometimes their meetings are like it's all already packed. But if you know they go to a side event where it's just a drink and it's a bit more informal, that's the most effective way to reach them. And so you have to, when you look at the Slush platform and all the events, don't also really look at the side events. And that's, for them, it's way more easier. They are there anyway. So that's also a good thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that really brings us to my final question, and that would be, what general advice would you give to first-timer startups participating in Slush?
Again, it is about preparation. Also, just have fun. For me personally, also make sure that you reload. It's also during the event, I find it's very intense. It's dark. It's with lights. It's with noise everywhere. Everyone is talking. So really make sure that you have some breaks. I have my we talked about it. I have my noise cancelling headphones with me. So if I have the time, like half an hour or an hour, I just put it. I put on my headphone and just check out. And I think that's also the first time I also didn't do that. I was all in. I went to every meeting. I went to every side event. I went partying. It was fun. But it was not so. From the result, I think it was better to also manage your energy during the thing and eat. You have to eat and drink and make sure that you stay. You keep your energy.
I can relate. I was also very happy with my noise cancelling headphones, and I also brought some custom-made earplugs.
Yeah,
and they really help.
Yeah. It's I think no one is like everyone has. There's so much. Lights and noises, etc. It's
stimuli.
Yeah, exactly. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So that's also something, and also just have fun. What I also think is these events like Slush. If you're a founder, if you have a company, you're struggling also a lot. And I think a lot of people in your friends and family, they like it, but they also sometimes think you're crazy, and you are. Like, you're just problem after problem, but also opportunities. It's like never boring. I like it, but it's also sometimes hard. And it's good when you are at Slush with 200 people of the Dutch delegation, and all the founders are a bit crazy. Why would you do this? So it's also nice to speak to other founders, like, okay, that inspires you. Like, I'm not alone. And there are other people who are also so crazy to do this. And they get, I had so much ideas only from talking to them. Oh yeah, and I want to say one thing also with the tip. If you talk to investors and already after 5 minutes or early, this is not a match because, it's not a fit. Use those conversations, because I have learned so much from conversations. Also, this Slush, the questions they ask, if they're like expert for our company's future of work and edtech. If I talk to investors in that part of the investment sector, they ask good questions. And if I hear one question more and more, I think, okay, this is something we have to solve, or this is something, or maybe an opportunity. So I have like my Slack, and I send it to the team immediately. Like, okay, this is something I heard now 5 times. We have to look into this. Or so don't think if it's not going to be a deal, that it's not a worthy of it, that it's not a conversation you can get value out. So actually, maybe those conversations are the best because there's no tension about, we're doing a funding thing here. It's like that's off the table already, so you can just relax and talk about the business, and you get a lot. If you ask an investor, what do you think? They want to share. So I always end the conversations with, okay, we're hearing all of this. What do you think is the most valuable and what appealing, and what is the thing you're most worried about? And that's such good feedback, and you can use it. So
nice. Is there a question you've heard that was asked to you on this edition or Slush or an earlier edition that you attended that stood out? A question that really made you think or made you pause?
Well, there's some at Young Heroes we focus on young professionals, and we connect and companies pay for it, and our young professionals on our platform go through a program based on emotional intelligence, and we make them more resilient. That's really our messaging, like create more resilient young professionals in the workforce. And we were already in our team thinking about, okay, but leadership has a lot of influence on how young professionals perform in companies, and leadership should change also so they can lead this generation better. We knew this. We were thinking about, should we have a product for this also? Because we also know there's like budget in companies for leadership programs. So it's something we're already talking about. And then during the Slush, every investor says, leadership, do you have a program for leadership? So that's like, they think, okay, that's something we should think about. And so it's more testing maybe things you're already thinking about, or so that's one from this year, I would say.
Confirming that you are basically on the right track, or you're onto something there. Yeah,
we're doubting, and now we're a bit more like, we should maybe also, because you then have more a lock-in into those companies, for example. It's not only on your professional level, but also on managers level. It's also better for your partnership, and that's an interesting one.
Nice. Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
On that note, thanks for being here and talking with me.
I hope our flight will go.
I hope so too.
It's snowing.
It is snowing, but it's Finland. They know how to deal with it.
Yeah.